This is Leafs Morning Take with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill.
Now we've got a fight started here right off the bat with Rosehill.
30 minutes of live, nonstop Leafs talk starts now.
All right, what is happening? And here we go for the Thursday edition of Leafs Morning Take following round 1 of the NHL Draft as we record this and do this show live, round 2 through 7. Getting underway, it is Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill. What's up, Rosie?
What is happening, man? You're still in Nashville. I'm seeing pictures coming through. You must be feeling the effects. Looks like you got your hospital garb on there. Were you spend a night in the hospital, or what is that?
Close enough. No, it's one of my go-to shirts, actually. I wanted to dress up for the show. Pardon me?
Sorry, buddy.
No, it's okay. I wanted to dress up for the show today. I was feeling good last night. I don't know if you've had a chance to go to Broadway and Nashville and some of the bars and the scene. Like, it was insane last night, man.
I have been there. There's lots going on. People are all on the same level around there. And I imagine this weekend it's only cranked up to 12.
I was at Aldean's last night. A lot of the media crew were out. Jason Aldean's got a bar down here. Of course, the infamous Tootsie's. I got a couple drinks there throughout the week. And it's just a different feel and a different atmosphere.
You go to the stage by Tootsie's? That's my favorite.
Yes. Been there too.
Good spot. Where's Aldean's place? It's not on Broadway, I wouldn't imagine.
It is.
Is it? What a piece of real estate that guy picks up. Pretty neat, buddy. So you're having a good time. You're feeling it. I think sometimes I can tell when you're dragging ass and you don't think I can, but I'm like your dad. I know what's going on over there.
No, accountability, dude, is a big word with me. And I hold you accountable in every day, right? So I want it back. I want it back.
Good for you.
Thanks. Let's jump into things. Remember to subscribe, tap that like button, leave us a review wherever you're checking us out. At the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube, where you can subscribe right now. If you're watching the live show and you're not subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. We just continue to deliver tasty content for you to make sure to subscribe at the Leafs Nation 401. Additionally, we're available wherever you find your podcast. Just search Leafs Morning Take, will pop up. Don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com for the very latest on all things Toronto Maple Leafs. Thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns, you can drop them in the chat down below here on YouTube, and we'll address them a bit later on the show in about 15 or 20 minutes from now. But for now, let's get over the boards. I would say a rather uneventful round 1 of the NHL Draft, Rosie. For somebody who loves trades, we saw quite a few of them leading up to the festivities yesterday, but not so much on the draft floor. Like, I think obviously the big story was the fact that Adam Fantilli did not go second overall. It was Leo Carlsson, and in fact, I had Leo Carlsson at plus 300 to hit at number 2 to the Anaheim Ducks, so I was feeling good about that.
And you nailed that?
I did.
Good for you. Yeah, I think that, obviously kind of a subdued day is what it is. It's not always fireworks and crazy unexpected turns, but that is always interesting. The Connor Bedard was an afterthought, and then after that, it's just interesting. Like, does that come down to the 11th hour? Did they know they wanted to go with Leo Carlsson, the Swede? Did they know that? Was it a last-minute deal? Did they do some digging on Fantilli and found something they weren't totally a fan of? Was there something that stood out about Carlsson they didn't think other people knew? It's hard to know. I mean, with those picks, like those top 4, top 5 picks, they're going to be with your organization most likely for a long time, and you're going to be with that player through everything they're going to do over the next, at least their entry-level contract. But it's interesting to see who they go with and why they changed, and we'll obviously never know, but it's kind of interesting when they're like, whoa, they didn't go with the, everyone's obvious pick for 2. They went with, the next guy, and it's just kind of something to scratch your head and raise your eyebrows. But other than that, we're not going to get much info on it.
You know what drives me nuts this time of year is all these people who claim they know these prospects. Like, I don't know if you were all over social media last night. So the Leafs 28th pick, they keep the pick. They draft Easton Cowan from the Ontario Hockey League, London Knights, 68 games last year. Pardon me?
The savior.
Yeah, but it's more so, and again, we knew that they were going to run into this. We've talked about this the last couple of days. When you change regimes or whatever you want to call it, Kyle Dubas is gone, Brad Treliving is in. He cannot do right. And right away, the first draft pick ever by Brad Treliving and company. And let's not forget, he didn't take much part in the draft. It was a prospect that a lot of people had pegged to go way later in the draft, and a lot of people suggesting the Leafs reach. But how can you come to that decision not knowing the future of this kid at all?
You don't. It's stupid. I don't know. I mean, first round is pretty big deal usually, but once you get by like 15 and 20s and then the late couple of picks, I mean, I think like a third rounder is like between 20 and 33% chance of panning out, those late first rounders. You just don't know. I mean, go up to any high school on the planet and grab a grade 12 kid who's 17, 18 years old and try to decide what he's going to pan out to as a man and as a full grown person. It's next to impossible. All you can do is say, what's this kid looking like? Do some background checks, good kid, talk to his coaches. You did the draft interview. I would put a lot of stock into that, the draft interviews and grilling these kids. I wouldn't have weird psychedelic philosophical questions that make these kids go, what the hell are you talking about? Just get a vibe on this kid. How does he speak? What's his confidence level? Does he look you in the eye when he shakes your hand? Just little things like that, where has this kid got his head on his shoulders or not? I think that's about all you can do. But as far as ripping apart anybody for a 28th overall pick, like, settle down.
It just already started. We knew this is coming, and there's pretty much a civil war within Leafs Nation, right? People who just loved Kyle Dubas so much, people anti-Brad Treliving, although he's done nothing to suggest otherwise so far. I mean, it's such a small sample size, but I knew right away whoever they selected, people were going to be like, oh, Kyle Dubas would never have taken this guy. But it's another smallish forward. We'll see if it pans out. But without question, I think my lasting memory of last night would be Carey Price announcing the selection of the Montreal Canadiens, and just mind blanking. Dude, it was sad, like, being there live, and you could look at his face and like he looked like he was going to cry. And I know on social media after he like apologized. There's nothing you can do.
Why didn't they help him out a little quicker? Like, fuck you, blank, man. Like, with names and stuff, like, a guy I work with for like 4 years, I'll just be sitting there staring at him going, his name just doesn't come into my brain. What are you supposed to do about it? Right. And that obviously happened. He said, I can't remember what the guy's first name is, whatever. And he just goes, and then it's just his last name wasn't in his head, wasn't on his tongue, and brutal. But I was watching SportsCenter with my wife this morning, and she's like, no. And she puts her arm over me. She's like, no, Carey. I was just like, oh, fuck, it's not in his head. I'm like, someone help him. And then he just kind of walks away. What are you going to do? Shit. It's just a footnote. And I mean, if that kid pans out in 10 years, they'll look back and be like, remember when Carey Price, Hall of Famer, didn't remember your name? Whoopty shit. It's just something that you chuckle at, to be honest. Not a big deal. Sucks for Carey.
I thought it was tough that they try to make a joke. Like, I think obviously, they come in after and he's like, oh, we meant to do that. It's like, no, you didn't. But in the moment, I was like, oh, like, right away, like GM, like Kent Hughes comes over. It's like, oh, we planned that. It's like, no, you didn't.
What a stupid thing to say. That's more stupid than forgetting the guy's name. Why would you say that? Just say, oh, fuck, he blanked on the kid's name that he's never met, that he learned his name 2 minutes ago.
You know what I was concerned about? I thought he got the wrong prospect. Like, I thought midway through, he's like, oh shit, this is not the kid we're drafting. What happens if that's the case? If you say the first name, like, I always wondered that.
They submit like a thing to the league that's official, and if you go up there and say frickin' Cookie Monster, it's not going to change the actual. But if it I don't know, back in the day, old school, if I don't know, maybe if they didn't put a ballot in and you accidentally said the wrong name, then you like renege on it, and I don't know what happens there. But I was wondering too, because I didn't know that happened. I just saw it live when I watched SportsCenter, and I was like, oh shit, he doesn't know. And my wife's freaking out too watching, and I was like, that crossed my mind too. Does he not know who he's picking, or did he say the first name? And then I realized he just blanked on the last name. Not a big deal, but kind of funny.
It was really unfortunate to Carey Price, because I mentioned it. It was a really, really uneventful first round. Outside of like the Michkov situation, goes to Philadelphia. Fantilli goes number 3, and Leo Carlson number 2. So the lasting memory of the first round, unfortunately, will be Carey Price. So again, the Leafs select 28th. Easton Cowan's the pick. Dude, we talked about this yesterday, how fucking stupid it was that Brad Treliving could not be at the table, and then he struts out like he's Vince McMahon. Like, where was he? Behind bars for 45 minutes?
Seriously. I thought like he couldn't be in the building, and it's like, what a formality that means nothing. Like, why would, honest to God, the Calgary Flames, after, I would say he did a pretty damn good job building that team. They can him, probably not deservedly, and then they hold that over his head and like enforce the stupidest thing we've ever heard. And then he's cruising around the building anyways. Like, what did you possibly think you accomplished by, making that a reality, not allowing him to participate, quote unquote?
Yeah, they were clearly like state secrets or something, but I wish there was like a camera crew on Brad Treliving during the first 15, 16 picks of the draft, just waiting to come out like a caged animal. It's like Elimination Chamber in WWE. Like I just think the whole thing was a comedy act, especially considering like Kyle Dubas is the perfect example of somebody who was able to participate in the draft from the beginning with the Pittsburgh Penguins. But Calgary was just like, no thanks. Brad Treliving can't be at that table until we pick. I thought it was lunacy, but nonetheless, I would think the big story from yesterday, not really a big story at that, and we've talked about this throughout the week, like we didn't expect much. The biggest fish to fry, obviously, in the form of Willie Nylander and Austin Matthews, and we'll see what happens over the next couple of days here with respect to those two guys. But David Kampf, back on a 4-year deal. We can start there, $2.4 million. Your impressions?
Yeah, I like Kampf, man. He was solid. I think he's kind of an unsung guy, doesn't get too much credit, but man, he's clean, he's solid, he's reliable. There was times there in the season where, he chips in and gets a few big goals and whatnot, but like never was a big mistake or a bad goal or a late period goal or a bad giveaway at a bad time ever on Kampf's stick. He seemed solid and reliable. The number seems high to me because when I was playing, like a $7 million guy was like Dion and Phil and that type of thing. And now I'm like a fourth line center gets 2.4. Like but that's just the reality of the world. And the cap is high and nobody was making 14 mil back then. And it just is what it is. It seems high, but I really don't think it is. And, he's pretty solid. It's just not a game changer. Him and Holmberg, they're just kind of, you need a good, solid, reliable fourth line center. I want to surround him with some physicality, with some energy, not just a guy that goes out there and asks guys to fight, a guy that can skate, that moves his bloody legs and bangs and crashes and brings, I keep saying that Darcy Tucker element where you're just got crazy eyes going around, just running around, hammering guys and just, holy shit, is that contagious on the bench? I want that on the Leafs because when they spin their wheels and they don't have it going and Marner and Matthews and Nylander can't seem to get one and they're not penetrating. It's just not going their way. And it's just like, then they have nothing. They have nothing and there's nothing to do. And usually you can get your fourth line out there to go crash and bang and kind of hit the little reset button on the bench. And okay, boys, let's fucking, we're rolling now. They're scrambling going, what the hell just happened? We just got ran through the boards and turnover city. And now everyone's worried about getting hit, especially this day and age, all these kids playing that have never been hit before. Like, let's get a little bit of that going. I would love to see that. So I'm more concerned about that than getting Kampf, but I had absolutely no qualms with him this year. I actually thought he was quite unhailed as far as what he provided. So it's good to have him back.
So I have a couple takes on David Kampf specifically. And
let's hear them.
Right away, when the tweet came out, I believe it was Frank Saravalli that had the report, David Kampf 4-year extension with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Oh, he's vastly overpaid. I can't believe they did that. Kyle Dubas never would have done that. I think first and foremost, like you highlighted it, he's reliable, dependable, kills penalties, key face-offs. Like he does a lot of the little things. And having played in this league, how integral it is to have players like that. The other thing was the cap hit. Okay, $2.4 million. I think the important to stress here, Rosie, is the fact that the cap is expected to go up significantly starting next summer. And I think a couple of years down the road, maybe year 2 or 3 of this deal, it's not going to look as crazy. Is it a bit much, a bit rich right now for a guy like David Kampf, who's pretty much a fourth liner? Yes. But I do think he brings a lot of the intangibles that you need on a roster. And the other thing too, so like, let's say you don't bring David Kampf back. There's people who are really high on Pontus Holmberg, and Holmberg, I think, will crack this roster next season. We'll have a good shot, at least in training camp. But people are like, why don't they just replace him with Holmberg? But I think you look at the body of work of a David Kampf, like he's an established NHL player. I didn't have any issue with the deal. I know people are going to bitch and complain about a cap hit, but at the end of the day, it's $2.4 million. I think you have bigger problems knowing you have 4 players making $1 billion combined. Close enough.
I'm looking through my things here that have been sitting here since October, looking to see how old David Kampf is. I can't quite remember, but there's a chance this guy like grows during that during that period of time. 4 years, a bit much. It'd be nice to have him for like 2 years and see where you're at. But I mean, that's probably what it took to get him locked up. And I mean, okay, say you like, there's no real reason to walk away from David Kampf for the naysayers. Anyone who doesn't like this contract just likes to bitch. Like, okay, so what would you have done? No, Kampf, you're gone. Let him walk. Now, what do you fill that with? Like, you got to go get another. You got enough shit on your hands right now. This guy's proven to be reliable, not a big cap hit, and maybe all of a sudden, after 2 years, he starts really solidifying himself. He can jump in on the third line when he needs to. But what I would like to see is him start eating up some more quality minutes in the ends of periods, the end of games. A guy who's just going to make the smart decision, who's going to be in position, who's going to support the puck when we need to have support, not give up those giveaways, not be looking for breakaways, not be looking for his cookies, and just have that guy, Kampf, you're out there. There's a minute left in the period. We got a 1-goal game. Get him out there and just be Mr. Solid and be Mr. Reliable and eat up some more of those minutes, where this year, I mean, we're going to guys where I'm like, how on earth is a guy having one of the worst games we've seen this month, who's been struggling all night, and, he gets put out there with a minute left in, and I just that's the kind of shit that I never really understood with Keefe, like his allegiance to people for no apparent reason. Like, it's a team. Whoever's going that night, whoever's most reliable, I don't give a shit who they are. Get them on the ice to do the best for the team. It seems like that didn't always happen, and it blew up in our faces sometimes, but I think Kampf can be a guy that can be really reliable down the stretch.
And I think Holmberg too, like, you need players to take that next step in their careers. And I was really high on Pontus Holmberg last year in his rookie year. Sort of came out of nowhere, cracked the roster, was a mainstay on the roster for a good portion of the middle half of the season, I'll call it. And then fell out of sorts, got banged up a bit, and never really returned. Like, there seemed to be some trust building there with Sheldon Keefe, and then it just wasn't there at the end of the day. But again, you need players like this to take that next step. We can joke all we want about the core four, and it doesn't seem like they're going anywhere right now. In a salary cap world, you need guys like Pontus Holmberg to elevate, and I just hope he can crack that roster next season.
Yeah, he seems to be kind of one of those guys that'll be decided at training camp, and he had lots of upside where he showed that he can play. He's still quite young, fairly young, and like you said, a guy like him, I think he's 24 now. And only had his rookie year, so he's got some developing to do. And if he decides to step up and be a man that wants to go take the reins and make it difficult or make it easy on the brass on who's picking the roster, then he can choose to do that in training camp. So it'll be interesting to see. But both those guys have potential. Nothing wrong with them. They're just not game changers, and you need those guys on your roster. Not everyone can be a game changer, but both guys that are known, that have been around, that we know of, who could fill their spots well, and then some for sure.
Hey, I love how we had Milan Lucic on the show, and I'm not sure if you saw this. It sounds like he's going back to Boston, man. So right away, it's like the Leafs need to respond to that, and they have been linked to Ryan Reeves and Austin Watson. I love this. Like, this is more what I expect from Brad Treliving. I'm not expecting a full roster of fighters, but I think if there's a takeaway I have from this Leafs team the last 10 years, it's they're pushed around too much, Rosie.
They totally are. They're totally too soft. And that's an old. You're beating that drum too much. Someone said, like, fucking, that's what it is. That's what it is. That's a reality of the situation. That's why we're going into free agency. That's why we're going to the draft. We want to address the problems of the team. That's why we do this bloody show. So we will beat that drum until it's addressed, until we see, that we're satisfied that this is where it needs to go. That's why we do it. Doesn't mean we're always right or we're perfect or everything needs to be in the way we say it. No, but we constantly notice the same problem and we want it addressed. And it looks like that could be done with those guys. It just never ceases to amaze me how Revo can stay in the league. Like, total testament to him to be as tough as he is and to stay in the league this day and age. Like, it's so fast. It's so quick. Like, there's so many kids, you can't really hit and crush, and fighting's kind of going down, and he just continues to prove his worth and to get contracts and get jobs and stay on rosters. And testament to him, both on the ice and in the locker room, and all the qualities that he's provided to teams over the last decade, where a lot of guys like him, myself included, have fallen off and not been able to stay in the league. And, great for him to be able to do that. And, that Watson kid's tough kid too, right? provide some edge. And I want to go down his rabbit hole a little bit and check him out, watch some video, look at his stats, see interviews, and see what it's like. But I just love the way we're shining a light towards beefing up, as you call it there, because it's needed, man. It's so needed. Again, when we're in those tough games where just the wheels are spinning, I would love to have an energy line out there that, and again, like people always misconstrue that, oh, we don't need some meathead out there, some enforcer. I'm not saying that, dude. This isn't 2004 where you, hey, dude, you want to square up? Good luck, man. No reason. Like, fucking, that's done. Everyone knows that. I'm not living in 2004. I need some energy. I need some physicality. I need some FU on the roster. And that will only grow, the Marners of the world a little couple inches taller out there and give them some room. And, I've had so many star players that don't play like that say, I like it when I have a guy on my team that can do that. I like it when I get some room. I like it when the team over there isn't down my throat. And me, I've played where if you got a team over there full of guys that play that way, you conduct yourself accordingly unless you're ready to get into the muck. And so many guys are not willing to get into the muck that when you have a Reeves or a Watson or some guys over there that are right there chomping at the bit to just fly around and buzz and get in your face, then all right, maybe tonight's not the night I'm going to be an idiot and get down Mitch Marner's throat and run Austin Matthews and take that extra chop after the whistle. Maybe I'll just kind of hang out because I don't feel like dealing with that. It is a real thing. It is real as anything, and the Leafs are lacking it so far. So I love that they're addressing it.
Character, right? And I think along those lines too, like there's no fear with the opposition, and maybe part and parcel to the building that the Leafs play in and all the suits in that building, but like I would just love a team that has some like bite. I don't know how you bring it. That's why I love Luke Shen, what he brought to the table, just to give them a second thought, right? I think more times than not when teams play the Leafs, they're like, we can do what we want. There's going to be no answer, right?
100%. I mean, we had Wayne train there and he could get it done. He provided that, but it didn't work out with Wayne. No matter what, it's one of my when I look at it, to think that it didn't work out for Wayne there, and think about what he was capable of in Philadelphia, especially, and the toughness, just out of this world toughness. That guy fought guys that were seriously tough, and Wayne not only handled them, but like friggin' went to town on them, and he could provide so much of that in his offensive skill. It just burns me that they couldn't make it work with him for whatever reason, and it is what it is. And I guess you move on and you got to try to get someone to fill that role. But I mean, they tried to do it with Wayne. You got to give them credit for that. And what a great pickup, because I just remember him in Philadelphia on the power play, just getting it on that strong side and then pulling it to the middle and going far side or 5-hole. He scored so many goals that way. He was so good in front of the net. He couldn't get pushed around. He did not take any bullshit. He could stick up for himself and teammates, and it didn't work out. So I give them credit for having that in place in the years past, but we need to replace it now and not forget about that. And it's nice they're going in that direction, because it definitely matters, and it's definitely what this team is lacking.
Very curious to see what happens over the next 4 days, right? Aside from the Nylander conversation, aside from the Matthews conversation, I don't know if we're going to get a resolution right away on July 1st. Very unlikely, but like they haven't added anything to this roster. You do the Kampf move. There's been a lot of wheeling and dealing around the league. Like my expectation is that something has to be coming in terms of changing this roster a bit, no?
Well, that was kind of my worry about getting a new GM, is just a pure run it back. Well, let me see how this looks. It looks pretty good. This should be weird. It's almost like me coming into this show this year and
where are you going with this?
Expectations being a certain way of look at this group. They're going to get it done. Look at this group. They're going to get it done. To a degree, they did in the playoffs by getting past the first round. That was my thing. I said, I guarantee you they won't be out in the first round. But again, then completely just erase that basically in the second round. But if Tree Living gets in there and doesn't understand that this doesn't work this way, it's not a group that will punch through. You need to change. You need to add something and mix the formula somehow. It doesn't look like he's been able to do that so far. But again, I agree. I hope that something's going to change. I'm not saying who or why or whatever. I just hope there's some change so that there is a different vibe in that locker room going into the season, because I don't think it's going to be good if we completely run it back with the same group of people.
Yeah, it'll be the same shit all over again. We were actually talking about this at dinner last night, how I mentioned you came into the season number 1 here on Leafs Morning Take, and you're very optimistic and feeling positive about this team. And I told you from day one, I'm like, dude, I do not care about the regular season. Just wait. That's what I kept saying to Jay Rosehill. I said, just wait. We get to the playoffs, and he knows. He knows. I mean, you're part of the pain now, Rosie.
Yeah, and I have been for a while, and I get it. But if they do run it back, if the roster looks like it does now, and I mean, like, we don't even have the additions that we added at trade deadline.
I know.
You know, we don't even have the Shenners locked up. We don't have the Ryan O'Reillys. You know, Achari still needs to get done, correct? Like,
Yes.
It's like, Jesus, like, what's this thing going to look like? Like, they beefed up at the trade deadline, and it just still wasn't there in the playoffs. And, you know, again, I just feel like this team is good. Any team can do anything at any time, but based on what we know, we need to make some additions here. So I am hopeful for July 1, and I hope that they make some moves. And I want Treliving. I love his attitude. I like where his head's at. I like what he does with his teams in the past. I'm glad he's here. I just hope he's able to get something done and make a move that really collectively Leafs Nation feels like, damn right, this is awesome.
Yeah, sort of the stamp of saying, here, I am the new GM of this Toronto Maple Leafs team. The Betano wrap-up is presented by Betano.ca. The game starts now, 19+. Please play responsibly. A couple questions about Michael Bunting. In any world, would you try to bring this guy back, or are you done with him?
Yeah, I'm kind of. I'm
over it, dude. I'm over the act. I'm done with it.
It was definitely a piss off this year when he just doesn't quite get the role that he needs to play. It's like, hey, I give him credit for trying to play the role. Most guys just, like, you look at like a Kerfoot, who's just like, it's not even on my radar to play, you know, that edge or that pest or that physical or that in your face style, or piss off the other team or let them know you're there kind of thing. It's not even in a Kerfoot's, not even in a question for him to even try, which bothers me. And at least, you know, Bunting tried, but the way he went about it, he just didn't quite understand, like diving all the time and trying to draw penalties that way. Like, you draw penalties by forcing them to haul you down because you just won't stop moving your feet. Then the ref's like, no, this guy's playing hockey and he's outmanning these players and they're forced to break the rules to stop him. That's a penalty, not no penalty and pretending it was a penalty. God, that pisses me off. Like, no one should do that. And then, you know, the suspension he took, like, how did you think that's going to, right in front of the ref? Like, why did you decide at that point in time it's just, I don't think he understands what the role is that's needed to be that guy and how to do it. But a credit to him for trying to do it and at least, you know, putting that on his radar. But I just think we can probably move on, and things didn't work out as well, although he provided a lot of offense, a lot of big goals, a lot of good memories, everything else. He's a great player. He's going to have a good career. It's just, I guess we're probably going to move on from him, and I'm basically okay with that.
Our guy, Donnie Does Dishes, who is a constant troll in our chat on a daily basis. I think that's just his purpose for living in this world. But he says Bunting was so good, he couldn't crack the Coyotes lineup until he was 26. Well, it's called the late bloomer. I think obviously Michael Bunting is an NHL player. I think he put up some pretty damn good numbers. Ultimately, I think the act is tired. Wasn't crazy about the diving, and I'm right there with you. Like, he didn't know how to rein it in enough, and it reminded me a lot of like the tail end of Nazem Kadri to an extent. Obviously, a higher offensive upside with Naz, and wins a Stanley Cup too. But I just think it's a definition of insanity if they come back with the same nucleus. And again, we've hammered this drum for a long period of time, and we'll see what happens, Rosie, over the next couple of days. But you hit the nail on the head, you know, earlier on. I just think it would be ludicrous to come back and say, hey, we're doing this again. But that was the risk they ran when the Dubas thing didn't work out and a new GM came in here.
Yeah, it is. There's kind of a pattern and a reason to believe that a new GM comes and he kind of gives it a shot, you know, and, you know, the last thing we want to do is waste another year having the same result and doing the same thing with the same people. And unfortunately, you've got contracts in place that makes it hard to shake it up too much unless you want to blow it up, which is a big, big risk as well. So, Interesting to see. Again, I just hope that come Saturday on July 1, I think Saturday is July 1,
Yeah.
they are going to make a splash and there's going to be a whole stop the presses moment. Holy shit, did you see this? And that would be exciting, honestly, just because you follow the team. It gets a little boring to have the same team and to go through and to put up 100 and some points and then to everyone's scared shitless in the playoffs and you don't really have a playoff team. And they just kind of run into a team who's ready, chomping at the bit to play playoff hockey and run through you. And then holy shit, what do we do now? I do not fucking want to go through that for a third year. I hope something happens, especially on Saturday, and I hope it's big.
So I'm going to drag my carcass home. I'm in Nashville right now, headed home today. Got a 4.5 hour layover in Atlanta. I want to shoot my brains out for that, but that's what I booked. And for the record, it is not a hospital gown. The chat is just ripping me to shreds.
Yes!
I bagged up the last couple of days. Don't get me wrong, but this is not a hospital gown. The kid's doing fine. I'm trekking. This is what I do on the road, man. I have a good time.
Let me see your wrist. Let me see that little bracelet. No, okay, shit.
No, I was in one for the last 3 days, but I will say confidently, Rear Admiral, he was drunker than me the entire time. I bumped in RA last night. I bumped in him the other night. Unbelievable weapon of mass destruction that guy is. But when he's in one, he's in one. And you just can't have a convo with him because I just can't understand what he's saying.
Yeah, those accents get even thicker when they're on the sauce, eh? I love it.
Yeah.
But hey, Nicky, it's a nice shirt. Do not let those bullies in the chat get you down.
You're fucking bullies. Anyways, we'll be back with you on Friday as one of your boys enters the scene. What's going on, my man? So coming up tomorrow, obviously, we're going to recap day 2. If anything happens here with the Leafs, we'll bring that to you. And it's going to be a bit of a free agency preview. I think we'll find out some names that the Leafs are linked to in the next 24 hours. So we'll reconvene. We've got a couple more shows here before we go in a bit of a summer mode. We'll continue to deliver content your way. But I just want to thank everybody first and foremost, Tyler Yaremchuk, and everybody here on scene for just the treatment. The setup, it was phenomenal just being here in Music City. And next year, Rosie and I will be together, I believe, in Vegas at the draft and Toronto for All-Star Weekend. We want all of you to come out with us as well. But yeah, so it's just the beginning, man. I think a lot's going to happen with this team the next couple of days. So great stuff, Rosie.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll look forward to it. We'll rip a show off tomorrow and then get ready for the big day and see what happens. So Leafs fans, get ready. Hopefully we're rocking and rolling and lay off a Nick, okay? He's had a long week.
I'm doing this for all of you guys. Actually, I was telling Rosie off air, just to wrap, I got us 5 new subscribers last night, grinding away for the brand.
Chipping away at the bar. Hey, let me see your phone. Subscribe. That's how you're going to get to the top, Nicky. That a point.
I'm just the nerd at the bar. I'm fucking sitting in the corner. I'm like, hey, can you subscribe to our channel? We're working really hard on a daily basis.
Did you guys know I have a podcast?
That's pretty much how it sounded. I'm like, I ain't talking to a single woman here. I'm all about the podcast. We'll leave it at that. Many thanks to Jay Rosehill, producer Aaron, bang up job as per usual. And we'll talk on Friday, provided I actually get home in one piece. Take care.
Ooh, I might be solo mission.